connected with Kabbalah Satira. It says like this. What is the avodah? What is the specific avodah? What do we have to work on the Chag of Shavuos and Kabbalah Satira? We say in davening, we say Zman Matan Teira Seinu, the time that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us the gift of Teira. You know, if Reuven gives a gift to Shimon, Shimon has to make an acquisition of the gift. If Shimon says, Yafshi, I don't want it, or he doesn't make an active acquisition, it never left the rishus, it never left the place of the giver. Transference of a gift needs in every transference of ownership, there's a halacha, what we call in Hebrew kinyan, an active acquisition. If the matana of Torah is given to us, we have to make a kinyan on the Torah. We have to make a kinyan. We have to be specific, make an active acquisition of the Torah. In order that the gift should be completed, we have to complete the gift by, if we don't make an acquisition on Torah, we don't have the gift of Torah. What is the acquisition of Torah? Now, if I wanted to make a kinyan acquisition, we have a Mishnah, we learned in the Mishnah, above. How do you make a kinyan of Torah? What's the kinyan of Torah? There's a general principle of acquisition. How do you make acquisition? A true acquisition. First of all, like this. The Gemara says in the Dalit that they didn't know why the temple was destroyed, the first temple. They asked the wise people and they asked the prophets and nobody could say. Till came HaKadosh Baruch Hu when he was Mefarash and he explained it. The Gemara says, what does it mean? They listened to my voice and they didn't go in the Torah. What does it mean they didn't go in the Torah? So the Gemara says, they didn't make Birchas HaTorah. They didn't make a bracha on the Torah. Of course, it doesn't mean it's so difficult to make a bracha on the Torah. To not make a bracha on the Torah, the world, the whole Eretz Yisrael destroyed. It means, so what is it means that they didn't live in their heart the concept of the bracha on the Torah. So Rabbeinu Yoina, one of the medieval commentaries, explains what does it mean by bracha on the Torah to Chila? Shavai Hoysa HaTorah Matana Chashuba Be'einei. It wasn't, they didn't have the full respect and value of the gift of the Torah. It wasn't, they didn't respect or appreciate the gift. It wasn't, they didn't have the full appreciation of the importance of and the value of the gift of the Torah. So let's start. First, the whole Yesod of Shavuos, we say that is Matan Tereseinu. That's the avoid of Shavuos is that the Torah should be Matana Chashuva Beineinu, to appreciate the gift of the Torah. Hashem gave us the Torah. That's the whole Chag of Shavuos, the Hodah, the gratitude to Hashem and appreciation of the gift of the Torah. What does this have to do with acquisitions? Let's go back to the famous Gemara in Masechet Brachot. The Gemara in Brachot brings a contradiction to a contradiction between two verses. One verse says, "L'Hashem ha'oretz u'malayim." The whole world belongs to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Everything's Hashem. Hashem ha'oretz u'malayim. The world, the earth, and everything it has, it's all Hashem. It all belongs to Hashem. And another pasuk says, we say it in Hallel, "Ha'oretz nasam l'fnei Adam." He gave the land to people. Contradiction. Who does it belong to? Does it belong to Hashem, or was it given to people? So it's the Gemara. Kashi kroya David. Contradiction the verses. Says the Gemara, there's no contradiction. Why? Kan koydem bracha, kan la'achar bracha. Before the blessing, it's Hashem. After the blessing, it's given to the man. What is a blessing? What is a blessing? Here it's written that a blessing is an acquisition. Where is the act of acquisition in the blessing? Where lies in the blessing an acquisition? What is a blessing? A blessing is a statement of recognition of the quality and the qualities of that I'm receiving something now. It's the recognition of receiving something of value from Hashem. That's what it is. It's saying I'm receiving something now that has a value. I appreciate it that has a value, and I'm receiving it. And who am I receiving it from? From HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Thank you, Hashem, for giving me this gift. That's what a bracha is. And when it says by Bochu b'Torah Tchila, that's what it means as well. They didn't realize, they didn't have the full gratitude in their heart or the recognition of what they're receiving from Hashem, of receiving the Torah. Now, here it's written in Chazal that every bracha, what is the acquisition? The recognition of what you have. This is a cloud. This is a rule in the whole creation. It's not just a bracha on an apple. It's all the brachas. And it's a rule, we can broaden this rule, it's a rule in the whole world. I'll explain. To the point, in anything that you have, any blessing that you have, to the point that you recognize the blessing, so you possess it. And to the point that you don't recognize it, you don't have it. The act and everything in the world, how much you value it and how much you appreciate it, so you have it. And it's a law. It's a law of nature. Where do we see an example of this law of nature? We'll broaden it further. It says in the Gemara like this. The pasuk says, "The Amelech David Zoken, Bo Vayomi." The King David was old. Vayechasu begodim v'vayicham. They covered him up with clothes, and the clothes did not warm him up. Says Chazal, say the sages. Why is the Navi telling us that David HaMelech, that the clothes didn't warm him up? So they bring up pasuk, Boz ledava yechavaloi. When a person disgraces something, so he loses the value of the object. The object doesn't help him. David HaMelech in his level, it says there was one time he met Shaul, and he tore a piece of the beged of Shaul to show Shaul that if he wanted to, he could have killed him. That Shaul should appreciate that he didn't. And he cut off a piece of the clothes of Shaul HaMelech. So he was on the level of David that's called that he disgraced clothes. So because if you don't show the full value and appreciation of clothes, then the clothes don't help you anymore. It says the reason why the clothes didn't warm up David HaMelech, because somewhere David HaMelech in his behavior did not express the full value of clothes. So this is a law in all creation. So Hashem, it's engraved in the creation. To the amount that you value something, so you have the benefit and the benefit of the object. And that's the amkis, that's the depth of what the Gemara says, that ve'acha brocha, after the brocha, tzoros nasna le'olam. So let's go back. And that's the same concept, the same idea. We have a concept. The Gemara says, somebody did mitzvahs and ma'asim tovim his whole life. Tzidkas hatzadik lo titzilenu b'yom rishon. It says it's possible that a person should do Torah and mitzvahs his whole life. If he regrets, he loses everything. So here, yes, tshuva on a day was a whole gift from Hashem. Suddenly here, if he regrets mitzvahs, he loses the mitzvahs. Why does he lose the mitzvahs? Again, it's the same idea. Because the acquisition on anything spiritual, mitzvahs and ma'aseh it's an acquisition. It's a spiritual acquisition. How much you possess these mitzvahs and ma'aseh is how much you, in your eyes, they are valuable. When the person regrets his mitzvahs and ma'aseh he changes his view of life. He no longer relates to those mitzvahs and ma'aseh that he did with value. He doesn't value them. He doesn't respect them anymore. He doesn't value them or respect them. They fly away. He no longer has the act to tie them to himself. They fly away. He loses them. So, how much we receive the Torah, how much we are meshayach ourselves, how much we connect ourselves with matan Torah is birchas Torah. Is how much we appreciate the gift of the Torah. So the avodah, the avchat Shavuot is the appreciation that we receive the Torah. And so it says in the Gemara Mefurash that this is the avodah of Shavuot, because like the Gemara says, Hakol, even though there's our opinions on Yom Tovim, when it's allowed to make it a day of tefillah, we don't do it like that. There's an opinion that in Yom Tov you can make it totally Lashem, to make a fast day like a Yom Kippur and pray to Hashem the whole day. But Shavuot, Hakol Moedim B'Atzeres, everybody agrees on Shavuot. You have to have lochem, you have to have mitzvah simchas Yom Tov, you have to eat. My time, it's the day that the Torah was given, and the Gemara follows with this. Amar Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef, when it would come to Shavuot, he would say, make me a special calf meat. Why? Because he says, Ilav ha-yuma. If not for that day, Kama Yosef Ike B'Shuka. This fits with Americans. You know, many Joes are in the marketplace. Uma Beini. So that's what Rashi says. Kama Anoshim B'Shuk. Many people in the marketplace called Joe. And if I wouldn't have received the Torah, what's the difference between this Joe and that Joe? This is a Joe and that's have to be the same, just one of the Joes. And Rashi says, in Lav, and not for that day, Shalamanati Torah Nislaymanti, that the Torah elevated me, Kama Anoshim B'Shuk Sheshmam Yosef, Uma B'Ni U'B'Nei. These are the words of Rashi. Many Joes in the marketplace. In other words, I have to appreciate that Torah made me into another human being. That means the amount that a person is a ben Torah, he has a greater obligation of thanks to Hashem and gratitude. And this is something to think about. It doesn't come gratitude, it doesn't come off the cuff, so it speaks. It has to think about it. Let's think. How many people are in the world? And how much is there b'chal Am Yisrael? Like somebody said, take one needs a 10th person for a million. So what is a year? You need a 10th person. No, comes 800 million Chinese. No, comes one Jew, a shikha guy. He's a shikha Jew. He's even shikha. Come in, a million. No, the Kaddish is shikha. Oh, how we can say kedusha? One Jew. I feel a shikha. Shakul can get 800 million Chinese. We have to be maimin that. To believe that. We're zeich to be maimin. That's number one. How many Jews? And in the Jews itself, how many secular Jews? How many maminim? And in those maminim, how many are zeichet to learn Torah? And from those that are zeichet to learn Torah, different levels of Torah. So how much one is more than Torah? How many people come to a yeshiva? How many people can learn a pasuk chumash? How many people can learn Rashi? So the greater one is the ben Torah, the more connection has with Torah, the greater the obligation of gratitude to Hashem. And this is the avodah of Shavuos. Gratitude for Hashem for having, that's the Simcha Shavuos, gratitude to Hashem that we were zeicha, that we merited to be connected with His holy Torah. If you ask, what is the specific gratitude that a person has to have? So we have to, it's also invited, it's going to connect, but continues, it's a connection of Amunah. The Gemara tells us, there's a pasuk, Lulei Risi Yoimam V'Layla Chukos Shamayim V'Haaretz Leisamti. It's known, the Chaim Volozhin says, what does this mean? If not for the Torah learned day and night, the world would have no kiyum, would have no existence. Chaim Volozhin says, if there'd be a state where absolutely nobody is learning Torah, the world would go back to total vacuum, nothingness. And it could be sometimes that a person is learning Torah, if he's the only one at that time learning Torah, so that it's in his schus, the whole world is kayam. Whole world could be has a schus. In different words, every person that merits to learn Torah, he is from the mekaynei ha'olam. He's from the pillars that the world is standing. And that's not a small thing. He's doing chesed with the whole world. Learning Torah is not just for oneself, it's chesed with the whole world. And so says the Gemara. The Gemara says that an apikolis doesn't have a chelik roim habo. Says, what's an apikolis? An apikolis is somebody that says, what do we have from those that learn Torah? They only do it for themselves. What do we have from it? The Gemara says, the person says that he's an apikolis. Why? Because he doesn't believe even in a pasuk in Bereshis. You know which pasuk he doesn't believe in? It's very interesting. See the Chachamim, they bring it in the lessons from places in the Yuna. They found in the tefillah, in the tefillah of Avraham Avinu on stone. That's where they found this message. Why? Because Avraham Avinu asks, maybe you have 10 tzaddikim. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, if there's 10 tzaddikim, then Nasasi l'chol an mokem ba'avura. I'll forgive all stone, even though they're the biggest Rishayim. I won't destroy stone. So what do we see? When a person is learning Torah and he's doing the Dvar Hashem, he's not just, the whole world stands. He's protecting the whole world. Because the whole world stands on those few that learn Torah. A person has that schus. I want to tell you this. There's a Gemara, I can give an example to explain this idea. There's another Gemara. The Gemara says like this. There was the big tzaddik, I'm sure you heard of him, Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. And he was very, very poor. And it says like this: Kol ha'olam kulay nizay b'shvil Chanina ben Dosa. Kodesh Baruch Hu said, the whole world has what to eat because of Chanina, my son. So I said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'Chanina b'ni, what does he have to eat? Dailoi, it's enough, and he doesn't eat more. He has some measure of the baksa, charuvim. It's hard to eat baksa tree. Charuvim for Erev Shabbos of Shabbos, that's what he sustains himself on. Says Reb Chaim Volozhin, but here you have to know a bit of Hebrew. The word bishvil has a double meaning. Bishvil means because of, but in Hebrew there's another word which means a pathway. And the word is a shvil. Shin, Leis, Yud, Lamed. It's a shvil. Shvil is a pathway, a narrow pathway. Kol ha'olam kulay nizayin. Bishvil, in the pathway, the tzimor. He sends it for his Torah and Tefillah. He sends a pathway of shefa, of flow, of parnasa to the whole world. Now, let's analyze. The Ashir looks at Chanina B'ni, this Chanina B'ni, says, well, he's such a wretched, poor, wretched guy. He can't do any chesed. I have money, I support this yeshiva, I support that yeshiva, I have built a free hotel like a Ravino. I'm a big Baal Chesed. But this poor guy, Chanina B'ni, because he has what to eat for himself. He doesn't have no way to do chesed. What is it saying, Chazal? Mr. Ashir, you know, even what you have because of Chanina B'ni. You know who's the biggest Baal Chesed in the world? Who's the biggest Machnas Eirech? Chanina B'ni. How can you get a bigger Baal Chesed that he's giving Mezainis, he's giving what to eat to everybody in the world has what to eat because of him? Kol ha'olam kulay nizam mishul Chanina B'ni. That means who's the biggest Machnas Eirech in the world? Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. Everybody's eating on his cheshbon. He's doing chesed with the whole world. The same thing says the whole shefa that comes to the world. If we're minding the Torah, the whole shefa that comes to the world is b'schus those which are on the Torah, that study Torah. Without Torah, the Torah brings the bracha. We had it in last week's parsha. If you go in the ways of the Torah, Rashi says you toil in Torah, then all the blessings will come. And if you don't toil in Torah, this brings all the curses. So if a person is zeichet to be, his merits to be from those that learn Torah, to appreciate it. He's from the time in order. What's the test? I want to go finish with one more idea. What's the test if a person has full appreciation or not? You know, the Chachamim, when we're attacking the Yavad HaKol, we read before Tisha B'Av, we always read Pashas Dvarim. And one of the reasons why we read Pashas Dvarim, the Chachamim came and connected a word that Moshe Rabbeinu uses in that parsha with the Megillah that we read on a special Megillah that we read on Tisha. What's the name of the Megillah that we read on Tisha B'Av? Megillah's Eicha. And in that parsha, Moshe Rabbeinu says over there, Eicha Eso Bevadi Tochachem Masachem Rivchem. The Dominican customs even to read it with the tone with the nigun of Eicha. What's the connection? What is he saying, Moshe? So there's an interesting Safon. The Safon says like this. What Moshe Rabbeinu says? You were such kaptonim. You were so busy with being a Torah. Each one had arguments with the other. From one point we see the Yerushalayim. Today, if somebody has a problem with his friend, he knows who's right. Everybody knows who's right and who's wrong. They don't need a dime. But there they had Yerushalayim, and they needed Dayanim. They were afraid maybe who didn't know who's right. So every 10 people that were busy with somebody needing Torah, then every 10 people needed a private judge. Every million needed a judge. But you see the Yerushalayim. On the other hand, it says this after I promised you, this was before the Chet, after I promised you the enormous gift of Eretz Yisrael, and that you're going to go into Eretz Yisrael if they would have sinned without even a battle. So that should have been, which is the Torah, which is such a benefit from Eretz Yisrael, and such a double mechumat, such an honorable thing. If you would have really totally appreciated this gift of Eretz Yisrael, everything, all your nechassim, all your possessions, and everything that you're fighting over in the midbar should have become miniatured. They should have become nothing. In the eyes of the gift that you're going to get, you're going to get Eretz Yisrael, all that should have become so miniature that should have become all batrani. You should all become, maybe it's yours, maybe you're right, but let go. Let him have it. So what if he has a shulak in them? You're getting something else so much more value. The fact that they were kapdonim, each one of the other one, they weren't ready to be mavater. How do you say mavater?
Give in.
To give in, you to let go, to give it to the other one. Let them have it, even if it's yours. Showed that they didn't have the full appreciation of the gift of Eretz Yisrael. And so what's the connection? So if they didn't have the full appreciation of the gift of Eretz Yisrael, that means it was missing the acquisition of Eretz Yisrael. So missing the acquisition of Eretz Yisrael was claiming to fly away to nothing. So the Eicha Esa levadi tochacham, that gave birth in future generations, the Eichel Yashva Bodet. That Eretz Yisrael remained alone by Am Yisrael. Because the kinyan, the acquisition on everything, is the appreciation. That's the acquisition. So bring it back to us. How much if a person recognizes that, take and test himself, if he really appreciates the fact that he was Zeicha, that he merited to learn Torah, this has to minimize the importance of all the other things. It has to make him Samech B'Chalkai, all the other various arguments in Olam Hazeh and various other things. How much he appreciates other things will become miniatured, like taking less place in his life. If all the little details of life take up place for him, it means he doesn't really appreciate the honor of being a mentor. The same idea. This is the avodah of Shavuos. The avodah of Shavuos is this person to realize Ashreinu, Ma'atoit Chakeinu, Ma'anoim Goreleinu, Ma'yotim Yushaseinu. The person to say, I was zeicha to be a Torah, I was zeicha to Torah mitzvahs, to appreciate and be samech b'chalka. The test is how much other things take up less importance. This is the avodah of Chadat, and that's the kinyan on Torah. And then he makes a kinyan. Then he says, "Man matan Torah." He makes a kinyan on the matana. If you don't make a kinyan on the matana, it stays by the noisin. You didn't receive the matana. The kinyan on the matana is the appreciation of the matana. How much more he appreciates it, so he makes an acquisition on the matana, and he's not saying shekem and it's man matan Torah. The matana is according to the appreciation. How much you appreciate the gift of Torah, so you have the gift.
We appreciate that shmooze very much.